I'm a big fan of picking up words. And so when you told me that the topic this week was relationships, I always take for granted that you understand certain words, and then you look them up in the dictionary and they hit you in a different way. So I said, well, let me just look up the word relationship. So I did. And from the dictionary, it says the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. So I thought that was very interesting. I never really thought about it in that way before. The way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected. Like, I've never really analyzed in that way, like, how are we and Grant connected? I actually have analyzed it, but I didn't understand I was actually analyzing it in terms of a relationship, because there's another definition here that says the emotional or sexual association between two people. So, there's many different relationships. There's the relationship with your husband, there's the relationship with your children, there's the relationship with your coworkers, your friends, your family, and it is important to understand the distinctions between all of them, and how do they rate, and how do you exchange with each relationship, and what do you get out of each relationship, and what is your role in each relationship. And another definition here is a way in which two or more people or organizations regard and behave toward each other. So I just now kind of tapped on all of that. In terms of the relationship that I have with Grant, the first 4 or 5 years of our marriage, I thought a marriage and a relationship was just this last one, this emotional and sexual association between two people. I thought marriage was mostly about monogamy, which it is. That is not to be excluded from that area. But I thought, like, there was no school, no religion or anything at that point that had told me, like, what does that mean, like, to be in a relationship. I thought, okay, just monogamy. And so for the first 4 or 5 years of our relationship, we were in a relationship where, of course, we were monogamous, still are, but it didn't go beyond that. So what happened in the first 4 or 5 years of our relationship was, I had come from being this, and still am, but I had the viewpoint that I had to be this extremely powerful woman. I had to do it all on my own. I was never supposed to depend on a man, and I'm not sure where all of that came from. It probably came from a multiple facets from my parents and from society, and from what I thought I was supposed to be as my role as a woman. So for the first 5 years, I didn't have the inner workings figured out of how we were supposed to be connected to each other. And so we ended up fighting each other all the time, because I was vying for power. He was vying for power. I didn't get married until I was 30. So I was used to running the Elena show. He was used to running the Grant show. Now we've got these two people who don't know how to be connected. And so what ended up happening was, we're out producing all day and coming home at night and tearing it down, because of the bickering, the fighting, and the vying for the power roles in the relationship. And it wasn't productive. We couldn't get ahead, and we didn't know why. It felt like the harder we worked, we made little progress. It was a lot of effort, and it was difficult, extremely difficult. And then 2008 came around, where we had this economic collapse here, and it forced me to have to relook and rework certain situations, because at that time I was an actress. I hadn't given that up, or as I like to call it, I hadn't traded that in yet in order to trade up, which was to be who we and Grant are today. But I had to relook at things, because I was an actress. I was 6 months pregnant at the time. There was nobody pounding on my doors to employ me. And everything that, Grant had or I had was on the verge of collapse. Like it was just became about a survival game at that point. Like, how are we going to get through this? And so I had to rework certain things and figure out, okay, so I've always been a visionary. That's my strength. And I had to figure out, okay, well, what is it that we need to do right now in order to survive this? Well, it was at that point that I realized I needed to get behind Grant and fully support him because he, if I was going to be real and open and honest with it, he was the one that had the ball on the field who could actually financially get us out of the situation that we were in. I wasn't at that place. So I can blame myself for not being further along in my career. I can go down all of that road. But the isness of the situation was Grant had a better play that could actually help us achieve the Super Bowl at that time rather than, or even forget the Super Bowl, just win the game, So it was at that point that I looked at, okay, you know what, I have to risk, which is an entrepreneurial move, by the way, putting yourself and your stake at risk in hopes that the rewards are going to pay off.